Hey there everybody, Matt Carter here.
And Jessica Carter from CarterMatt.com.
This video is a reaction to The Boys, episode 8, the final episode of the season, and really one of the best cliffhangers that we've had on any show over the past several months.
Yeah, holy smokes, that was pretty crazy. It was good.
It was a good way to end the season, but I think it's also something that gives us an opportunity to actually come on here and sort of piece together what in the world is going on. And I think a lot of The Boys is kind of straightforward, so to have like a cliffhanger that we can really sink our teeth into,
Yeah.
that's exciting.
Yeah, it is.
Well, but we'll dive into that. But before we do, if you like this video, give us a like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss any other updates. Okay, so let's try to piece through then what exactly it is that we saw at the end of this, because
Yeah.
as it turns out, Rebecca and Homelander's kid, they are still in fact alive despite being presumed dead for a good while.
Yeah, and that's really opening up a huge mystery because we know what Billy thinks and what's been motivating him this whole time, that he thinks Homelander did something to his wife and his wife either committed suicide or was killed or something happened to her and it's Homelander's fault, and that's where all his rage has been for this whole season. So for him to then be waking up on her doorstep, she's alive, she's well, she hasn't told him, here's this kid, it is Homelander's son and his wife's son. It's a lot to take in. I don't know. It's just opened up a lot of questions for me. What really happened? Like, we've seen Becca go into that room with Homelander. We saw her exit the room by herself. We saw that scene on the bench. And that's all we've really seen. We saw also the lie that Stillwell told Homelander that she died during childbirth. Clearly that was a lie.
Yeah.
So Homelander now knows all the truth. He knows that she's still alive. He's got a kid. His kid looks like he's maybe like 10 or 11 at this point. Or I guess 8 or 9. However long it's been. So now Billy also knows all this. So while it's bringing up all these questions for Billy, it is bringing up all these questions for me. And with Becca still being alive, hopefully in season 2 she's going to answer some of those questions.
If she can, I think that is sort of the thing that's so interesting about this, because it doesn't exactly seem like Homelander has been abreast to all that much information that's been going on, so he's been in the dark.
He has, but that makes sense. Homelander is a psychopath, and no one's been able to really control him except for Madeline, who's now had her face burned off. So now that she's no longer in the picture, I mean, who's going to be able to control him? And it feels like, I don't know if they decided to not tell him about this kid because he's so unpredictable that they don't know what he would be like if he knew that there was a kid. I don't know if it was that there might be a scandal attached to it because Becca was married, that this is a bad image for Homelander, or Homelander having a kid at all might be a bad image for him.
I think my feeling is it's a couple of different things. I mean, I think a part of it might be they're wanting to set up, son of Homelander to be sort of the next big hero, because, we know a lot about Homelander, but I don't know about aging. Like, is he still going to age? Is he still going to eventually, die of natural causes the same way every other human being would? I mean, we know that he is seemingly invulnerable and he can't be taken down by almost any other means, but maybe this is them sort of trying to find a way to bring about the next big hero, but they also know, because Homelander is a psychopath, you don't actually want Homelander in the kid's life for the majority of it, because not that good of an influence.
Yeah, there feels like that Vought is somehow involved in what's going on with Becca, that maybe they have paid her off, or she's obviously in some sort of protection because Homelander had no idea that he had this kid or she was alive. Nobody knew anything, so they've been keeping this secret for what reason we don't know yet. It could be that, like you said, they're feeling all right, we have this little Homelander now, and he's actually being raised by a mom, where Homelander wasn't, and we saw what happened when he had no parents and was just stuck in a room, and now he's a psychopath. Okay, maybe we can make another Homelander who seems to have some of those powers at the very least. We saw the eyes go, so...
Yeah.
So there's something there, but now maybe they're, okay, now we're going to do it right. We're going to bring in another Homelander. Maybe Homelander, they're trying to replace him or trying to find a way to deal with him in some way. I mean, he is kind of invincible, so I don't know how they would be able to replace him anyways.
Yeah, I think it all depends on whether or not they actually think that there's an expiration date on Homelander, whatever that might be, or they just want to see doing some sort of bizarre experiment. I think a couple of the questions that run through my mind, number one, who is obviously running this, especially, since Stillwell is now gone, like, she's out of the picture, don't have to think about there. Is this Mr. Edgar, a.k.a. Gus Fring, who is somehow running this?
Gus Fring running this whole thing again, behind the scenes.
Yeah, except this time, instead of saying, I will kill your wife, I will kill your infant daughter, he's basically done the exact opposite. He has kept them alive and just shipped them somewhere else. But
for other evil reasons?
Yeah, I don't know.
That was so cool to see him on the show.
I don't know how much Giancarlo Esposito will be in season 2. I know he's a busy guy, but...
He is, but this is a great show, and it is a shorter show, so...
Yeah, maybe he could have an opportunity to stop in at some point, but maybe he's involved. The other element of this, of course, is we don't really actually know fully what happened that night with Rebecca and Homelander. I mean, it was set up for us to believe one thing, but, is that actually true anymore? I think there's still questions to wonder about that.
Yeah, and that's why it feels like they've kind of set up season 2 for more answers and more focus even on Billy, because everything that he's been angry about against the Seven, against Homelander, of everything that's motivated him has just been blown up.
Yeah, and with it being blown up, it does sort of introduce this idea of, is he still going to find a way to be motivated by rage? Because it seems like he's just like so far down the rage hole that I don't know if he can climb back out. I don't know if there's any, way or means for him to climb back out. I mean, even with it in mind that, okay, Rebecca's alive, it's still, okay, she has been lying to you in some way by not coming and saying, hey, guess what? Guess who's alive? Like,
yeah, I'm very curious how that conversation is going to go. Is she going to tell the truth about what's going on? Seems like everybody's had a different perspective on what happened with Homelander and her, and she may be the only person that can actually give the truth. If she decides that she wants to give the truth, maybe she has signed some sort of NDA clause with Vought, and we don't know if she can actually say anything. I mean, we didn't expect Homelander to ever find her in the first place.
Yeah, and I think that understanding that, I think, is going to be one key element of season 2. And then beyond just that, with Madeline gone in particular now, the state of the Seven is in such weird limbo, because we don't know, like, is Homelander going to take this opportunity to become even more of, like, this crazed dictator who tries to lead all of Vought? Like, is that going to happen?
It might. I mean, he did admit that I had originally thought in the last episode that maybe Madeline had something to do with creating the super terrorist, but as it turns out, it was Homelander. And in some ways that also makes sense. Like, it didn't bother me. That was like, oh, okay, it was actually Homelander. Okay, that's fine. It makes sense. These two are both on the same path of where they wanted to go with things.
And that whole line about making sure they're set up for sequels down the road.
Sequel after sequel after sequel. It was like, that completely makes sense with this world. The branding, the brand deals, and all of this that's going on, then
It's pretty terrifying, really, when you think about it. But, I mean, this is the world that they live in, and Homelander may be finding some crazy things to do, running the ship with the Seven or whatever number they choose now. But then elsewhere with this group, is the Deep just kind of gone at this point?
Yeah, it feels almost like he's got the Pop Claw treatment here, where he's He's a fallen member of the Seven. He's being relegated to opening up Fish World or whatever, Ocean Land. And that whole sequence with him, with the everybody hurts and shaving his head and just realizing that he really is on the outs now. That's kind of disappointing. I am really hoping that we're going to see more of him. He's an unlikable, weird, strange character, but I like that. And maybe we're not going to see him back as part of the Seven, but I really do hope that that's not just kind of like, this is where we are with him. Maybe he'll turn into some sort of fish vigilante going into the next season. But I can't see with him having this fall that they're going to bring him back in. It feels like this season is being set up for new people coming into the Seven, some new superheroes, some new ideas. And I'm hoping, at the very least with Queen Maeve, that we're actually going to have something with her. For me, the biggest disappointment this season is that they had the Seven, and the only real female superhero didn't really have much of anything.
I think moving forward, we'll have some sort of moment with, I think everyone who is sort of a member of the Seven this season, I think they'll all still be around in some way. Like, I'm pretty sure the deep story is not done. I feel like with Queen Maeve, we need a more substantial storyline for her. I'm hoping that now that we've sort of picked off some people within the Seven, she's gonna have more to do, especially if Homelander gets more power. She's like the only person who can kind of understand and at least communicate with him in a way that's different than everyone else. So,
and she seems to have close to on the same level kind of powers as him.
Yeah, and I think she's just got it's just a general understanding of morality, which is something that not everyone within the Seven has. She's made some mistakes along the way, but I think that conversation that she had with Annie in this episode, I think was pretty noteworthy, where it was like she was sort of the one who helped get Annie back on the path that she should have been on.
I feel almost like that conversation that they had where Queen Maeve was like, this role is already taken, you don't need to do this, you need to be something else, almost feels like a conversation that should have happened earlier in the season.
Yeah, I think it should have, but I think a part of this probably just speaks to how jaded Queen Maeve is too, where she doesn't really want to butt her head in, she doesn't want to give anyone advice, it's not really her role in the team anymore. I mean, story-wise, yes, I would have wanted to see it earlier. I mean, I get why we didn't see it earlier, but I think the problem with the finale, as good as it was, is that they had to cram a ton in here, because it almost felt like the writers were looking down at the script and like all the things they needed to do, and they were like, oh my gosh, this is the last episode. How did we not realize this? Let's throw everything in now.
Yeah, and it was super long, which I was more than fine with, because I love this show, so the more that I can get, the better. But it felt like there were certain storylines that, needed a bit of a tie-up. Again, Queen Maeve, it just felt like, I don't know where they were kind of going with this, and there were some pacing problems for me in this episode. While there was a lot of stuff that did need to get tied up, there was some stuff that could have been just left for next season. The Queen Maeve stuff didn't really need to be put in this episode. I'm hoping that they're going to find a way to figure her out a bit more. And now the deep is, we don't know what's going on with him either, so we'll see how that goes next season. I'm very excited about the stuff with Homelander and Billy and the kid and all this stuff that's going on. Now we gotta talk about what's going on with Hughie and the boys.
Yeah.
And A-Train. That scene was really important to the story. When Starlight had said, he's just going to keep coming after you over and over again for the rest of your life. And Hughie still decided, you know what, I do know that, but I'm still going to try to save him. It felt like the moment that turned for Annie and him. I get that she decided after their talk where, Hughie's lied to her, but he also was the only person that was honest with her and told her that she was made in a lab, or that this happened early. And she had that talk with her mom, who confirmed that it's true. She allowed this to happen to her. that she realized that Hughie, even though he lied to her, was also the only person that told her the hard truth of things.
And I think ultimately what she's probably starting to realize, and I don't think she's necessarily even like there fully, and I don't know if there will ever be a relationship between her and Hughie like we saw a couple of episodes ago.
No.
But I do think that it is important that now she sort of recognizes, okay, what Hughie was doing, there was a very specific reason for it. It wasn't just a deliberate effort to hurt me or try to take me down. He was doing what felt like he needed to do. But I think in his decision to not let something more happen to A-Train and allow, medical to come in and take care of him, that she sort of realized, okay, this is not someone who wants to be a brutal murderer. He's not exactly what I thought previously in my head briefly. And, I think they have a connection now that I don't think can be broken in a really kind of a natural sort of way, where they understand each other. They have both been through a lot together, and maybe they will move forward in this series with a couple of the same sort of shared goals.
And I'm actually wondering if what she said is true, that A-Train will just keep coming after him over and over again, because he did have that admission that it was also his fault that that it was more so his fault that he got his own woman killed.
Yeah.
And having Hughie decide to save him, he's going to find out that that's why he's still alive, if he is still alive.
Yeah.
Nothing is ever going to be even between them, and there's always going to be tension between them, but I don't know that A-Train is just going to be focused on killing Hughie over and over and over again at this point.
I feel like there's hope for A-Train yet. I mean, I don't think that he is a good guy by any means, but I do think that there's a chance that he's going to recognize more and more, okay, Hughie, he's not necessarily a murderer. He didn't try to kill me. Ultimately, I think he does have some element of heart in there. I think the problem is he's an egomaniac. And
who's on Compound V, which is not making him think straight.
Yeah, he's an addict, and I think that's probably making things even worse for him, so I think he's so caught up in this I need to be the fastest person alive sort of nonsense that I think it may need some sort of wake-up call for him to realize, maybe there actually is something more to my life than this. I mean, there's a universe in my head anyway where The Boys continues forward and we actually see sort of everyone versus Homelander. It's a very faint possibility because we don't know where Black Noir sits on anything.
Yeah, and we don't really know where Queen Maeve is going to fit into this stuff. I mean, the problem is that they're all under contracts with Vought, and they all do care about their image and money and power and fame and helping people. Like, there's a lot that still comes into play. And now that they've gotten this contract with the military, they may feel that their roles are even more important than they were. Yeah, Homelander's a psychopath. They've all known it for a long time. They've all dealt with it for a long time. There's a bigger picture than just Homelander. So I'm not sure if they are all going to band together, maybe by end of season 2 or season 3 if they're, if it keeps going. But I just think that there's a much bigger picture than just Homelander. It's really about getting some sort of control over Homelander.
I think that will be a story in season 2, maybe. I feel like the end of the series could be everybody versus Homelander. Or at least that's kind of what I want, because I feel like there is good and some level in all of these other characters. I mean, there may be a lot of rottenness in them too.
It's true, but we have seen that with A-Train. He does love. We saw him love Popclaw, so there is some humanity in there. We've seen what's happening with Queen Maeve. We've seen her love and stuff like that as well. We don't know anything about Black Noir, so he can just land wherever. But, I mean, that still makes it interesting that he could land wherever. We don't know.
Yeah.
And we know that Starlight is not going to put up with it. So
no. I think we're leaving off this season in a really interesting spot where we've got a lot of people sort of just at play. It's like their pieces are on the battlefield, like in military strategy, and you just don't know where they're going to move and who's going to side with who. There's a lot of alliance making, and with Madeline gone, I think it's even more sort of just out in the air.
Yeah, because she did feel like she was the only person that had some kind of control over Homelander, and I think if she just hadn't lied to him about the kid, and I get why she did, it would have been a very different outcome. Yeah. Because he does seem to value truth.
And there is one other character that's kind of just catching my eye briefly, and that's probably just because of who is playing him, and that was the Secretary of Defense, who we met briefly, and this is, yet again, Eric Kripke using someone he's used before, Jim Beaver from Supernatural. And so I think that character, I would assume Jim Beaver would be open to coming back. I think that could end up being somebody who plays a role, and because you are talking about somebody with really strong military ties, maybe that complicates the picture further. But, I mean, we've reached the end of this now. This is the end of Season 1.
Cannot wait for Season 2. This was so fun. It's been a long time since I've had a show that I've just had a fun time watching.
Yeah, I think this was it was an enjoyable show to get through. It was an enjoyable show to talk about. And, I mean, here's to hoping for more hijinks and also really good, interesting, crazy stuff in Season 2.
And scenes that make us uncomfortable, because we know that that's going to come up too.
Yeah, that's pretty much...
This show really does a good job of creeping me out.
Yeah, that's pretty much for sure. But anyway, let us know in the comments what you thought about the finale and Season 1 overall. And if you like this video, give us a like, subscribe, and you can support us further by checking the link in the description to the Carter Matt store. And we'll see you here next time.